What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video here on the Attractions Guide YouTube channel. Last week, Alton Towers confirmed that they will be removing the VR element on Galactica for the 2019 season. Before we get on to today's video, I was sent two questions over on our Twitter page, and the first question was by Scare Track Podcast. Favourite kind of attraction: coaster, flat, dark, water, etc. So I'm actually going to use each and every one of these now as a little bit of a as a question. So my favourite coaster is Helix at Liseberg. Such a fantastic attraction. I first experienced that last year with my first trip to Liseberg, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. It was my second Mac Mega coaster, so I'd ridden Icon first, and Helix for me just hit the spot, and I think it covered everything. And yes, it's fantastic. My favourite flat ride, that's quite a hard one. I'm going to say Apocalypse at Drayton Manor. I quite like Drop Towers, and that for me was great. I did quite like the fear element that ride gives off, and it's fantastic. The overall experience and the forces that you get from that is pretty good. People will probably say that there's better ones out there, but my opinion, it's definitely Apocalypse at Drayton Manor. The next dark ride. So I'm going to cover dark and water ride in one, because my favourite dark and water ride is Valhalla at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Now, this is a great combination of the two. Valhalla at Blackpool Pleasure Beach is very well themed. It's great, and I think the UK needs more dark water rides like that. Even though you could possibly go for a swim in Blackpool Sea and then come out drier than what you will on Valhalla. Valhalla for me, definitely number one dark/water ride. I do go on it as much as I can, but we don't really get the weather here in the United Kingdom, so whenever I do go on it, I always like it. The next question is by Avalanche Attractions UK, and they asked, how many more IP themed lands do you think we'll see at UK parks in the future? And if so, what park and what IP? Now, that's quite of a hard one, and my answer to that question would be Sesame Street. Now, I know in Portaventura they do have, I think, I'm not too familiar with Portaventura, so I might get this wrong, but they do have a Sesame Street kind of area, and I know Sesame Street isn't that well populated anymore in terms of television and stuff like that, but I think Thorpe Park will be the next one to get one, and if so, I'd like it to be Sesame Street. I'm not saying it is, but I'd like it to be Sesame Street, because I grew up watching that TV show, and I loved Sesame Street. Now, I'm not a fan of IP lands, to be honest. I don't think they're great. I think always a theme park should always set their own, and make their own brand and make their own theme, and I think that's what makes a theme park so successful, is creating their own characters and creating their own physical brand. Now, I think eventually we'll see a complete washout of IPs. I don't think there's much future for them in UK parks. Maybe abroad, maybe, but I think we should start creating our own, and that's what Alton Towers used to do back in the day with Henry Hound and Henrietta. That used to be such a fantastic mascot, a fantastic character. And I think that would be much more successful than bringing in an IP land. I still don't really like CBeebies Land at Alton Towers. I think that for me, I preferred it as Old MacDonald's Farmyard. That's only possibly because I've got memories growing up visiting there, and obviously I used to love going in Ribena Berry Bish Bash, so that was great. But yeah, I don't see there's any future in IP lands, to be honest. And I know I've gone on a bit of a tangent with this question, but I don't feel like there's any future for them. And if there is, I think Thorpe Park should be the next one to get one, because I know they did say they're trying to hit the family market now. Sesame Street's for everybody, I think anyway. And I think that would suit Thorpe Park very, very well. So yes, you heard that right. Over on Twitter, Alton Towers confirmed that they will be removing the VR element from Galactica for this year. Now, I don't think that's really a bad idea, but I'm just going to kind of go into the bit of the backstory regarding the VR element, and then I will talk about why I feel like it's a great decision for the park to remove this. So I'm going to be looking down again, as per usual. I do have some notes, so I've got some notes from like the history of how it come about with using the VR element. So back in the close season of 2016, Alton Towers decided to remove the Air brand from Galactica. Well, it was called Air, formerly known as Air, and they basically refurbished it and then reopened it as Galactica on the 24th of March 2016. In 2016, it welcomed the new theming portal, which is just after the first drop. The craft flies through it, and it kind of makes up like a charge noise and a build-up noise, and it's got loads of mist. I thought it was quite cool because if you already know that Air didn't have any theming, proper theming, shall I say, and I thought maybe introducing this theming element may make it a little bit better, and it did. It does look good, and they have said that it will be staying there, even though the VR element of the ride will be no longer this year. So, with the addition of the theming portal, we also add the debut of virtual reality. Now, even after opening, it didn't seem too popular regarding some of the reviews I watched online. I have done a bit of research for this video, but when I've watched these videos, they're basically explaining that the VR element just isn't great, and I agree, it wasn't. I think the VR element and the VR was produced by Figment, and then they obviously used the I think it may have been the Samsung headsets, possibly the Samsung 360 VR headsets with the Samsung phones in them, and I didn't think they were great. I mean, sometimes the audio didn't sync up, as well as the video. The video was just awful, and sometimes the audio just didn't work at all, and I felt like for an attraction, especially, that's going to be its permanent basis of surrounding the VR element, you've got to nail it, and if you don't nail it, it's just going to be a complete waste of time and waste of money, and that's what it turned out to be. It seemed like Alton Towers aren't too popular with it themselves, and if you look at on your screen now, this was the tweet that they responded to. So the tweet says, due to guest feedback, they had decided to remove the VR element to make the experience more enjoyable. You can't complain with that. Obviously, they've listened to guest feedback, and guests aren't too pleased with it. Neither was I. I mean, going back to my first experience on it, it was awful. I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I come off and I felt quite sick. And when you're on there, you feel very emotionless. I'm guessing quite a lot of you has experienced Galactica. Just isn't great. And I think it's the best thing they can possibly do was to get rid of it. Back at the start of the 2018 season, you can kind of tell that Alton Towers wanted to fade it out a little bit. It went then open to just the back 3 rows of each train, so you could actually decide when you get in the station whether you wanted to experience the VR virtual reality element or not. And I don't think I ridden it once last year with a VR element, from what I can remember. I just felt like it wasn't good enough in terms of the video synchronization to the audio. And Alton Towers, they tried the best. They did say that they had future plans to keep making it refreshed, and it just didn't work. I mean, if you look at the likes of Darren Brown's Ghost Train at Thorpe Park, that works a lot better than what it does on Galactica. Obviously, I haven't tried the Can coaster because I know at Europa Park, because I know they've installed the VR to their coaster. I don't think VR's ready at all. I think for a coaster, just not good enough. I mean, I've never tried the only time I've tried the Hive VR, and that's on Derren Brown's because they used a completely different headset for that. And I felt like that was much better than the Galacticas. Also, it was quite unhygienic in terms of the headsets. They used a little wipe, and sometimes they didn't even wipe it, and I felt like that, in terms of hygiene, wasn't great at all. So that is an absolute fantastic news that they're deciding to completely get rid of it. But Galactica will still be the name, so they're completely sticking with the name as well as sticking with the theming that they've got, the big portal. So we can't complain at that. At least Alton Towers are listening to guest feedback, and we can't wait to actually enjoy it without the VR element. We think that's definitely a step forward for us. If you do have any questions for us and you'd like us to answer them in our future videos, drop us a comment below or send us a message or tweet us. All the social media links are in the description. But thank you very much for watching. We're only a few days away from the opening of Alton Towers now. We can't wait to experience Galactica without the VR headset. Thank God they got rid of that. And we can't wait to experience the fantastic new Dungeons attraction and bring you some fantastic content from our 2-day trip to Alton Towers Resort. This is the last video actually until we're at Alton Towers, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. As per usual, all links are in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.